Hello. The question I would like to answer today is the following: what is it about human nature that causes individuals to shift both blame and responsibility for their actions upon alternate sources? Looking back to the book of Genesis in chapter 3 verses 1 through 19, we can recount the events of the fall from grace. Now, if you'll notice, in verses 12 to 13, man blames the woman for his actions, and woman blames the serpent for her actions. All are punished for their sin in verses 14 through 19, but it is interesting how neither the man nor the woman take responsibility for their disobedience, but rather begin the continued art of blame shifting from original sin. Most recently, I observed while on a police ride-along a woman who was stopped and arrested for drunk driving, after traveling the wrong way down a one-way street. Being nearly double the legal drinking limit for the operation of a non-commercial motor vehicle, the driver never once related her behavior to the irresponsibility of her choice to drink in excess and drive, but rather to not having asked her friend better directions. Sadly, this illustration of behavior coupled with the scriptural example given from Genesis adequately demonstrates the human condition in relation to sin, that our foolish pride, recognized or not, causes us to shift the responsibility of our own sinful actions, rather than address the fact that we are all filthy sinners deserving of death, and in need of God's beautiful grace. Whether Adam and Eve in the garden claiming, "It's not my fault, they made me do it," or this poor drunken fool of a woman declaring, "It was the directions," we all have the same response in the flesh to our individual sin. According to James 2:10, "For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles in one point, he has become guilty of all." So while we are in our sin trying to shift blame from ourselves to an outside source, we are all lawbreakers and guilty before God. In fact, Isaiah 64:6 tells us, "For all of us have become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a filthy garment." While our fleshly nature attempts to divert God's attention to our sin away from ourselves, and his attention to our righteousness to ourselves, the opposite occurs. He holds us responsible for our own sin and counts our righteousness as filth. Think of how much more of a glorious example this makes Christ in relation to our gross disobedience to the law of God. In fact, apart from Christ as Lord, God does not receive our righteous deeds as righteous deeds at all. In closing, it is the imputed righteousness of Christ which allows us to glorify God, and to receive this capability, we must first surrender ourselves with a repentant and contrite heart to a holy God through Jesus Christ. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.